Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to call the Committee of Adjustment meeting for May 8th at 8:15 to order. Councillor Kallenberg, who usually chairs the meeting, can't be with us this morning. He's going to try to be joining us at Zoom. I'd like to. Okay, he's watching over me. See if I do this right. Okay, I'd like to ask if there's any disclosure of conflict of interest to indicate it now. I'd like to join out, and I'd also like to welcome everybody that's on the YouTube link to join us today. And to start it off, I'd like to ask for approval of the minutes from the previous meeting, please. Carolyn, moved by Carolyn, seconded by Rob. All in favor? That is carried. Okay. Do I read this here now? Okay. So this is application number B-01-26. In the case of the application for the consent for TVA Farms Limited, as it affects the property on lots 22 and 23, concession 2 SER, designated as parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 on reference plan 25R-10099, Township of Warwick. The application is seeking to permit a severance of approximately 0.81 hectares, 2 acres, from the southerly portion of the agriculture parcel and add those lines to the abutting property municipally known as 8290 Zion Line. Following the proposed severance lot line adjustment, the retained agricultural portion will have an area of approximately 50.94 hectares, which is 125.9 acres. Madam Secretary, is there any, read any dates and places of notice of public meeting?
Notices were mailed to neighbors and agencies and posted on the property on April 28th.
Thank you. Is there any letters, submissions supporting or opposing the application?
We received no letters.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask the planner to explain the planner's report.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, respected committee members, applicants, and the viewing public. I'll just wait for the presentation. Thank you. Next slide, please. So the agricultural parcel, the subject lands is shown in blue. It looks like on our online mapping, it looks like 2 parcels, but apparently these parcels have been merged on title due to common ownership. The lands don't have a municipal 911 address, but these lands are north of 8290 Zion Line. That's the rectangular parcel just below the blue lands shown. So as mentioned by the chair, what they want to do is to sever off 2 acres from the south side of that agricultural parcel and add it to 8290 Zion Line. The zoning of the parcel is seen on the right. So the light green is A1 agricultural. There's also yellow and orange hatched area. So that's the hazard lands around the Kersey Drain. And on the north side of the property, we have protected woodlot. The surrounding properties are basically residences with agricultural operations. And the reason for this is 8290 Zion Line, they want to buy some land from this farm owner to make their parcel larger, to expand the existing farm tile excavation business that they have on 8290 Zion Line. Next slide, please. So there was another lot line adjustment application in 2017. It was for almost the same reason. So 1 acre was severed off from the agricultural parcel and added to 8290 Zion Line. And the reason for that was basically that structure that's shown there, and storage as well. The previous one was justified On the grounds that, because Kersey Drain is running there, a big portion of that land is hazard land, so it's not that tillable. There's a bit of slope that's there. And then it would be better used if it was added to the rural residential lot. That's how it was in the previous planner's report. So what you had there is you had a 2.5 acre lot that went quite a bit larger to around 3.89, around 4 acres lot. Now, that already made it an oversized lot for a rural residential lot. Within table A, within our zoning bylaw, rural residential lots that have single detached residences, the max permitted is 1 hectare, which is around 2.5 acres. And already this application has made it too large. So we can't justify further expansion based on that, but we can justify it based on the expansion of the business. Next slide, please. So we saw the west side of the lot, and then you have a residence in between, and then on the east side, you have this other structure, which looks to be related to the business as well. Next slide, please. So this is the proposal that was mentioned. So the yellow and the pink is the agricultural lot that we're talking about. And the pink portion is the 2 acres that's being severed from that and that's going to be merged with 8290 Zion Line, which is what's shown in blue down below. So from the justification of the expansion of a business, we have a lot of policies that speak to this. Generally, it's kind of hard to do because it's the agricultural area. But in this case, we do have some justification because this business has been acting as a business for a very long time. It's been there since 1989, and it's a part of the fabric of the area. The only issue that we're running into is we are taking from prime ag lands, and we need, so that business needs to be recognized as the business operating in that to permit that expansion. So as part of one of the conditions of severance, we've required a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone 8290 Zion Line to it'll still stay agriculture, but it'll add the business basically as a contractor's yard. Next slide, please. So the recommendation from planning staff is that Committee of Adjustment approve this consent application, subject to the recommended conditions of approval, which I'll go into right now. So there's quite a few conditions of approval. Most of them are standard conditions of approval. So the first 5, I would say, is standard conditions. So the first one is that a copy of the deed and reference plan be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer for registration, that a deed stamping fee of $250 be paid to the Township of Warwick. We've already received that with the application, that all conditions be fulfilled within 2 years, that the applicants enter into an agreement with the Township of Warwick for the apportionment of drainage assessments on the involved properties. 5, that the road authority confirm that each resulting parcel has adequate access and that any required entrance permits are obtained to the satisfaction of the road authority. 6, that the applicant's solicitor provide confirmation to the satisfaction of the Secretary Treasurer that the subject lands are merged on title and legally constitute one parcel. Brad, the agent, has already done some work on this. That the severed lands be amalgamated with the property municipally known as 8290 Zion Line and be registered in the same name and interest as the lands to which they are being added. So that's basically the severance, and then it should merge with 8290 Zion Line. That the owner obtain a zoning bylaw amendment to recognize and permit the expansion of the existing contractor's yard use onto the land subject to the proposed lot addition at 8290 Zion Line. And regarding that, planning staff do support that. 9, that the transfer documents for the severed lands be stamped with the stipulating merging certificate of consent. This is required for the merging. And the last one is that the applicant solicitor confirm that the receiving lands are capable of accepting the lot additions to ensure proper legal merger. If the receiving lot was created by a prior consent for which an unstipulated regular certificate of consent, regular stamp was used, and the applicant shall apply to the Committee of Adjustment for a certificate of cancellation of the original consent prior to registration. So what that basically is so we want the severed lands to actually merge. For whatever reason, if it doesn't, it might end up being its own lot. We don't want that to happen, right? So in that case, they would require a certificate of cancellation to cancel that so it can merge as intended. those are all the conditions, and I'm open myself to any questions you may have.
Any questions for the planner?
The rezoning of it, we're not adding anything to it because the property on the west, that yard is being removed. And we're just moving it. So the business is not actually growing. The yard's not getting bigger. We're just taking it off the one side and moving it to the other side so the trucks can turn around better in that in there. So we're maybe adding a little bit, but we've already set precedents that this is there on this property. To rezone it, more of it's a timeline thing for me than anything. I just want this to happen quicker and more and easier. Like, I don't see any advantage to rezoning it. Because we're already running that. It's already been done this way since 1989. Why go through all the extra work and the timeline anywhere else just to rename it? It doesn't change anything on the property, doesn't change what we can build on, it doesn't change what the neighbors can build. It doesn't change anything besides it's just more legality and time. Right? So we're not changing, we're not growing the business. We're just moving it from one side of the property to the other side of the property, have it all in one location. Now we're running at 2 locations and we're just gonna run on one site. That's the only difference.
Luann, have you got any comments back?
Yep, through the chair, even if you're doing that internally, within the lot itself, the lot is actually getting bigger, right? So the actual footprint of the lot in which the business is there is getting bigger, and the justification is for that is because you're expanding the business, right? It is an expansion of that. That's why you need that additional land. Because the severance isn't that you're actually removing that land is going back to the other parcel, and then you're severing another portion and adding it. That's not what the application is. The application is you're severing off this portion and adding it, and the overall lot size is actually getting bigger.
Yeah, I get the lot's getting bigger, but the business portion of the lot is not getting bigger. So right now we're running of that lot, we're running 30, we're actually in percentage wise, we're going smaller. So right now, see 50% of it's business, 50% of it's residential. When this 2 acres gets added, we're actually running like 25% business, 40% or 75% residential. So we're actually lowering the business portion of the property. I get the property's getting bigger, but we're lowering the amount of property used to run the business. And the rest is going back to agricultural, residency, yes.
Through the chair, one clarification, it doesn't matter how much percentage the business is on the property. What actually matters is for the purpose of this application, we are severing off that portion of land, and that's going to be added, right? And for that, to justify that, we do need the rezoning.
Thank you. Any other questions, Brad, right now? Does anyone in attendance have any questions or comments? Does any committee members have any questions or comments? None at this time? As there are no further questions, the committee hereby closes this portion of the meeting. Notice of decision will be mailed out within 10 days from the date of the committee's decision. The appeal period is 20 days after the date of the decision is mailed. After that date, if there is no appeals filed, the application becomes final and the property owner will be sent a notice. Thank you for attending. At this time, I'll ask the committee if they can reach a decision.
Make a motion, we approve the application with the recommended conditions.
Thank you. Could we have a seconder, please? All in favor? It is passed. Okay, at this time, I'll open the second portion of the meeting. In this case of the application for minor variance and consent from Blue the Coop Limited as it affects the property on Warwick Concession 1, SCR, east part of lot 26, part of east 1/4 lot of 26th, municipally known as 8673 Egremont Road, Township of Warwick. The applicant is seeking a minor variance permit minimum distance separation, MDS one, where it is required MDS setbacks from the poultry operation at 8644 Eggman Road is approximately 375 meters. Whereas the proposed lot is approximately 192 meters from the livestock barn. This represents a deficiency of approximately 183 meters, which is 48.8%. The minimum front lot requirement is 150 meters, excuse me, whereas 65 meters has been proposed. The minimum lot area requirement is 38 hectares, where 18 hectares is proposed. This is to facilitate the associated farm surplus dwelling severance associated at application B-03-26. Madam Secretary, can you read the dates and places where the notice of public meeting?
Notices were mailed to neighbors and agencies and posted on the property on April 28th.
Thank you. Can you also read any letters or submissions supporting or opposing the application?
We received no letters at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask the planner to explain his planner's report.
Thank you, Chair. Next slide, please. So the property is located at 8673 Egremont Road. The property is zoned A1 agricultural. There's a hazard lands around the drain that you can see. So EPH, so it's environmental protection hazard, the orange hatched area. And to the south, environmental protected woodlot. So that's the bright green. This zoning of the site was actually updated through the associated rezoning, which I'll get to when we get to the page with the schedule. The surrounding properties have residences, agricultural operations with quite a few livestock operations. Next slide, please. So these are pictures of the residential cluster portion of the site. The one image on the site, image on the right, you can see the residence. Next slide, please. So there was a rezoning. It was applied for last year, but it was passed by council this year. So the previous rezoning, previous zoning was updated with this zoning schedule. So what changed was, so the lands that's being proposed to be severed off, that remains A1, and the rest of the agricultural portion that was zoned A1, that gets rezoned to ND-A. So that's basically no dwelling agricultural. So if committee approves the severance today, then they wouldn't be able to put any more residences on the retained portion. Next slide, please. So this is a proposed severance and minor variance. So they're proposing to sever off a 2-acre portion of the property. That was, as part of the rezoning, would remain A1, and then the retained portion is the rest of the agricultural lands. It's already quite undersized, but with the severance, it would end up being 18.69 hectares, where 38 hectares is required for retained portions, retained agricultural parcels. So regarding that, to allow the severance, a couple of minor variances are required. So as the chair mentioned, there's 3 minor variances. One is for that. The retained portion is quite undersized. The second one is the frontage of the retained parcel is 65 meters. It's reduced further because of this, because of the proposed severance. So it would end up being 65 meters, where 150 meters is required as per table A of the zoning bylaw. Both of these on their own could be supportable, but together they reduce the viability of the agricultural parcel. But the biggest issue for planning staff is the next variance that's being requested is the MDS, minimum distance separation. So regarding that, next slide, please. An MDS1 calculation is required from the property lines to surrounding livestock facilities, and there's 2 livestock facilities that doesn't meet MDS. The closest one is a poultry operation at 8644 Egremont Road, which I believe is owned by the applicants as well. And a separation of 375 meters is required, where 192 meters is proposed. So that's quite a bit of a variance. It's close to 50%, which is not supportable to a minor variance. Next slide, please. That Warwick, so the staff recommendation is that Warwick Township Committee of Adjustment deny the proposed surplus farm dwelling severance and associated minor variance applications for the reasons given. Now, I would let the committee know that, so the previous rezoning, the planning staff recommendation was the same. It was recommending denial, but council did support it and grant it. So if committee ends up granting it, I do have a list of conditions as well. If committee wants me to go through them, which I could read through as well.
Thank you. Is anyone in attendance have any explanation of your application, Colin or Jennifer?
So the paperwork that we just handed out, John, also, you should have an emailed copy in your email. If you want to quickly check it, so you can see. So this is regarding specifically the MDS portion. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, so just regarding the MDS portion is, if you take a look at the property that has the 8644 Egremont Road, which is our primary dwelling location. You just take a look at it, there's actually 3 other houses, 2 of them already being severed years ago, I'm assuming, that are closer to the primary residence already.
In our proposal.
Than our proposed lot that we're asking to have severance off. And then I know John didn't really talk about, or sorry, Johan didn't actually talk about the other farm too, but we just showed the distances on that one too, with it having quite a few other lots that are also severance and much closer to that one. Yeah. My biggest question is for planning. My understanding is when we've done a little bit of research that Lambton County is actually one of the few that actually require to do an MDS. If that is the case, would the county be more apt to potentially be approved this application?
Joanne?
Through the chair, if I understand the question correctly, are you asking me, because we're one of the few that actually require it, if we're more amenable because of that justification to approve this, to support it?
Yeah, so basically like other counties around us, surrounding us, they don't have the MDS requirement in place for severances. So if Lambton County specifically didn't have that MDS requirement in place, would you be more willing to be approve of it if another county doesn't require it? So it's not, they don't even look at it to be a concern. Whereas just because Lambton County does, you have, like, I understand you have to look at it as a concern, but it's not, an Ontario wide, set in stone procedure.
To the chair, I think that's a fair question. So we get guidelines from the ministry for MDS basically. And the guidelines actually speak to not requiring, so regarding severances, generally MDS is required depending on the circumstance, but more specifically for surplus farm dwelling severances, generally the ministry doesn't require it unless local documents require it. So in our case, we do have local documents requiring it. If, for example, we didn't have that local documents requiring it, so our official plan requires it, the county official plan does require it. If they didn't, then that wouldn't be a big concern for us, but unfortunately it does.
Just one more question too, like back when we were doing the rezoning, just so we're both on understanding is, let's say this house was Severn's and whoever decided to maybe tear it down and rebuild or add an addition, that my understanding is we do not, or they would not have to do another MDS to make for requirements for that. Is that correct? For, I guess, retaining building permits?
Through the chair. So if someone tears down an existing house and MDS the calculation would be required if they move it closer to nearby surrounding agricultural facilities. But if they're not moving closer, if it's the same place or moving it further, then it's not required. For this application, when we're doing our MDS calculation, we're looking at the lot lines, right? So we're not specifically looking at the house itself, but looking at the lot lines. And when we do our calculations, we're actually looking at, okay, so how far are the surrounding livestock operations to the actual lot line itself, the lot itself. And the reason that we look at it that way is, and this is a justification used within the PPS, provincial policy, and our local policy documents. So the county official plan and the Warwick official plan is that we're actually creating a new use for the lot. So before the severance, you would have a house, which is basically for the farmer who's farming the land, but you're severing that off and you're decoupling that house from that use. It's not with the farm anymore. It's just its own rural residential lot. Somebody can actually just buy it, and even if they're not in the area, and then there's a huge chance for complaints to go up to the township and to start complaining about the surrounding farmers. That's why we have this MDS calculation requirement to stop that from actually happening. Thank you.
Sorry. I think I just wanted to point out just a couple quick things for the people that weren't like in the rezoning meeting. Just so you have a little bit of background about who we are. And so we farm just outside of town, and it's our livelihood. And I think just a couple points is, with the housing problem there is, we are honestly, this is a surplus dwelling for us. We would love to see a family purchase a property in the rural area where we live and we love to live, and get to experience that, and provide another house to be part of our community that we don't have a use for. We've owned it since January of 2025. We don't have tenants in it because we would like to see it sold like we would. That's our end goal here. What else did I want to say? I think that might be it for the moment. I'll let you go and I'll just keep going.
I just want to touch base on what Johan was saying there. So just a prime example, actually the house right across from the road, across from us with the 5 acres, it's a horse location. We had a non-local move into there about 3 years ago. And what I always find when it's owned by somebody else, or when it's a physical owner living there, I just want to say they've expanded that location, spent some great money in our county or our community. A lot of it was done by local workers around here. So as a rental house for us, if let's say it had to go back to that direction, there will be no extra done. It just doesn't happen. Where if someone else could buy it, they could put the love that this property actually needs and update what they want, which allows everybody else in the community to also benefit from it.
Is there anyone in attendance that may have questions or comments? Anybody online? Yeah, just a second, Rob. Anybody online? I don't think so, is there? Okay.
Through the chair, thank you. I think they're all really good arguments. Unfortunately, I'm a conduit of planning policy. And so the agricultural area, the focus and the reason why we have our official plan designations and our zoning designations for it is we want the agricultural area to be for agriculture. So we have to balance a lot of things out. So we do understand that there is a housing crisis going on, but the housing stock for that should be within the Solomon areas. That's where people should be buying houses, and we should be pushing forward projects when it comes to residential stuff. Now, for surplus farm dwelling services, there was a lot of considerations that have gone into it. In the past, Severances were just allowed in the residential area for rural for rural purposes, sorry, for residential purposes, and this caused a lot of issues. It became a lot harder for livestock farmers to actually put barns down. So farmers got together, they complained to the province, and the province put together a policy to basically stop all residential severances. So that was the policy for a while. And then they realized, okay, there you have this scenario in which, you know, we have quite often the scenarios that we're running into right now, in which you have farmers that buy up the neighbor's farm or whatever, and they have all these additional houses that they don't use. What happens there? Do they have to tear it down, right? Especially if mergers are actually happening. And the province thought, okay, that's a waste of existing housing stock, right? So, okay, we'll allow it, but it needs to meet all these provisions for surplus farm dwelling severance, so it's not actually creating further issues, right? In this case, we would have allowed it if it actually did meet all those provisions, but unfortunately, there's quite a bit that it doesn't. And that's the planning position.
Thank you, Johan. Sorry. Jen.
And I guess that's why we brought this paperwork that we did for you guys to look at, is to see that there are many properties, like neighboring properties, that are actually closer to our barn and our neighbor's operation than what we're proposing.
Go ahead.
Yep, so within MDS guidelines, there are certain circumstances that would actually allow MDS to be exempt if there were a certain amount of houses in between the livestock facility. Unfortunately, this is not one of those instances. And even that, we have a lot of scenarios in which, you know, severances happened in the past, et cetera, that had very different policies. But now if we're looking at a application, we have to look at it according to the current policies of the time, and it needs to meet those policies. Thank you.
Yeah, I do understand that. And I guess what I'm just saying is that, like in our industry, I think that things have actually progressed more, and we've learned more, and, you know, there's so much more technology and education on, you know, manure management and than there was in the past. So to me, it's like we're moving forward, not backward. So for those properties that were severed years ago, it's like they're even closer. So we should actually, you know, we should be moving forward with everything that we've been given and the things that we've learned, that I think that it's important to look at those properties that are closer than this property we're proposing.
So from a planning perspective, we have to look at what's being proposed here, and then we have to review according to the current conditions. So when we're looking at other properties that have been severed in the past and all that kind of stuff, from a planning perspective, we don't want to be adding to the issue. We don't want to be, pushing forward conditions that, you know, same thing with planning stuff. And the reason that we updated policy is because we realized a lot of the stuff that was done in the past wasn't apt or appropriate for the area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Like on here. Is any community members, if they have any questions or comments? Yes, Dave.
You mentioned, Johan, if we approve this, there's a list of conditions. Can we hear those, please?
Through the chair, yes. There's quite a few conditions, most of them standard. So the first condition is that a copy of the deed and reference plan be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. That a deed stamping fee of $250 be paid to the Township of Warwick, so that's already been paid. That all conditions be fulfilled within 2 years of the notice of decision of this consent. That the applicant enter into an agreement with the Township of Warwick for the apportionment of drainage assessments on the involved properties. That the owner provide confirmation to the satisfaction of Lambton County Public Works and the Secretary Treasurer that both the retained agricultural parcel and a severed rural residential parcel have adequate and legal access. So this basically comes from a comment from Jamie Botting, County Public Works. Independent access for each parcel shall be provided where feasible. Alternately, legal access for the retained agricultural parcel may include identification of an area encompassing the existing west driveway. So that would be within the severed lot. West driveway within the proposed severed parcel, with access rights established through an agreement registered on title or other mechanism satisfactory to Lambton County Public Works. Any future entrance and or modification requests for new or existing accesses shall require approval through the county entrance permit application process. That's a lot there. So just quickly, what that is basically if the severance does move forward, either they would each parcel would need its own independent access. If it's not, if each are not going to have independent access, they can use the access from the severed lot, but they'll need some sort of easement or some sort of agreement that will allow that. So next condition, that any spatial separation deficiencies between existing building structures and the proposed lot lines be addressed to the satisfaction of Lambton County Development Services. This is basically an Ontario Building Code thing. So because we're proposing lines, new property lines, just that the existing structures meet the spatial separation requirements to the property lines. The next condition is that the owner provide detailed information respecting the existing private sewage system servicing the proposed severed parcel, including the completion and submission of a full septic system assessment to the satisfaction of the Lambton County Development Services. Should the existing private sewage system be determined not to be suitable to support the proposed severance, a new private sewage system shall be installed and improved to the satisfaction of Lambton County Development Services prior to the issuance of the certificate of consent. Basically, what that is because of the severance, you're actually making the lot a lot smaller for the residential portion, and then this will need to be reviewed by the building department for septic. If the system is not, it doesn't support, you may need a new septic system or modifications to the existing one. And the last one is that the minor variance application A06-2026 receive final binding approval, recognizing the reduced retained agricultural parcel area, reduced retained parcel frontage, and reduced minimum distance separation MDS1 setbacks associated with the proposed surplus farm building severance. Basically, that the minor variance needs to be approved as well. Those are the conditions. Thank you.
Dave, any follow-up?
Not at this time.
Wayne, I have a question.
Oh, sorry, John. I was gonna get to you, believe me. Go ahead,
Sorry.
John.
No, just on the frontage, like every house down that road, the house is pretty much the same distance away from the road as this one. And why is this an issue? I know it's a minor variance, but just questioning that, Johan.
To the chair, thank you. That's a good question. So to be honest, for planning staff, frontage is we need a minor variance because the required standard is 150 meters, and then what's being proposed is 65 meters. From an evaluation standpoint, this is not a big concern for us. The reduced frontage. For us, it's mainly it's the MDS.
Any follow-up, John?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
Thank you. My question is, I guess, on the agricultural side, this prevents, when we have another severance out, it will prevent other properties to be able, because MDS will come in for any additional buildings on these farmlands, or if there's, a replacement of a building needs to be done down the road, how much effect will this have on the properties surrounding this new severance that's being asked for? Thank you.
To the chair, thank you. I think it's a great question. So a good way to think of it is if the severance is supported, we're creating a new use. So in the past, it's basically a farmer farming the property. They're used to the existing context. They're used to the smells. They're used to all of that. When we're running into the issue of somebody who's not a farmer actually buying the land, or it could be someone who is a farmer who just doesn't want to deal with the smells, and there would be pushback. We're increasing the land use conflicts if new livestock facilities come in the area. So there's a high likelihood of actually complaints actually increasing. So that's actually why we have the MDS in place.
Well, Carolyn.
Yeah, that's a great, that's where my question was going with this MDS, because as soon as you have a severance, it does it's a larger area. So that's where my concern is. Suddenly you have areas here. Before there was availability for additional livestock buildings, which is also brings revenue to our township. And soon as we have more severances, that limits to where farmers or additional livestock buildings or agriculture could be placed. So that's where my concern is. Thank you.
Rob, you got a question?
Yes, regarding the entrances, you have stated that you've got an option there of putting in their own entrance onto their field or accessing that other one by agreement. I'd say take that portion out. I know it might be a little more cost for these people, but based on my past experience, dealing with Lambton County roads, the owner of the property should have their own access, should not be their neighbor's access. I've run into a situation in another municipality when I was with the county where the owner of the house, it's a similar situation, let them have access, and then it came up to who's paying for the culvert, who's doing this, and who's doing that, and you get into a conflict and you get into results. I would take out that portion of sharing the driveway with the homeowner and insist on them producing their own entrance completely separate. Other than that, I have no issues with it. I think it's a great idea. I actually like your idea.
Thank you.
Um,
Certainly, Colin, go ahead.
So yes, I do agree with you actually on that. So the property that has the 5 acres knocked off of it, it's actually 8631 Egremont Road. We have access into that field between those two fields. We farm them together actually. So I know from a standpoint from building my last project that we did last year, the county doesn't love giving out more road accesses or more laneway access. So in my opinion, I would say, let's use the 8631 as the granted access into those two properties.
to the chair, just to add to all the comments made. So the ideal scenario is that every property does have their own access. So that's the ideal scenario that we all would want. So basically to get like an easement or, some sort of agreement to share the access. That was basically the road authority. So county public works giving the applicants more options if the ideal independent access didn't work for them. That's what that is.
Any more questions, Rob? Are you happy?
Yeah.
I have a couple comments. I agree totally with the road allowance. Now how many acres are on the other property where the road allowance is, Colin? About? So, okay. So like easily managed with one field, basically. Okay. The other question I have is follow up on Carolyn's. Worst case scenario that you have to build a new barn for some reason on your home property, or the other neighbor has to build a new barn for some reason on his property. How is this MSDS restriction, because as Carolyn says, it's now a residence, going to affect the applicants from building, replacing their barn?
So I believe, so through the chair, I believe there's two questions there. One is if somebody wants to build a barn on a separate lot, how does this MDS, how does this application apply?
Oh, if the barn was, they lost it due to fire or had to be modernized or some reason, and the barn is gone, they want to replace the barn. Can they build it where it was, or do they have to go by the new MSDS 2 requirements because it's a separate lot now?
Sorry, where would this barn be?
On the same property, but could they build it in the same spot, or would they have to move it back farther because of the severed lot being too close?
Sorry, I don't understand. When you say same property, are you talking about the retained agricultural portion? If there was a barn there?
The applicant's home farm across the road. If something happened to their barn and they wanted to rebuild, what restrictions because of this MSDS 2 and a new severed lot have on them with constructing a new barn?
Okay, yeah, I think I understand now. My apologies. Yeah, so there's a lot that we can look at. So if a barn actually does burn down, there's actually exemptions for MDS that you don't need an MDS calculation if you're building the barn back in the same area. It would be very similar to if somebody is rebuilding a house, they could tear it down and build it up in the same area. So that's actually exempt from MDS, and this wouldn't have any bearing on it. The scenario would be if someone's actually building a new barn, there's a good chance of there being higher conflict, land use conflict, because this is basically a new use. Other people can come in and then they can start complaining to the municipality. That's where the real issue actually comes in.
Thank you.
As you're already looking at that, though, there's already two severance lots, which is one that's really close to it on the 1 acre there is really close to all the barns already. So if we were going to build onto that property again, it would be very close to what barns are already there, which would still make the other two severance lots already closer than the one that we're proposing. So there's going to be conflict no matter what.
But those lots were probably severed before MSDS ever come into effect.
Correct, but they're going to be an issue when I need to rebuild. It's because it's policy now, not policy then.
That's correct. Yes, Carolyn, go ahead.
Just one more question. Do we have any support from the neighbor properties with regards to this severance? Because sometimes we see supporting letters or comments. So just wondering if we've seen any supporting from the neighbors.
Go ahead.
We received no letters from any neighbors.
Carolyn.
Just a comment is just my concern is when you don't have, do the neighbors understand when there's another severance, it changes their MDS again, if they want to build on any of these properties. Is why I was asking if there's any support. Thank you.
Go ahead, Colin. I see your finger on the button.
Yes, Carolyn, I agree with what you're saying. I'm assuming if any neighbors that are in the livestock industry had concerns about it, they would have brought it forward.
And
Jennifer.
sorry, just adding to that, when we did do the rezoning, we had a nutrient management study done and every neighbor was reached out to personally by the lady that did our MD or our nutrient management. And they willingly provided all their information and they were told why this was happening, what the study was for.
Is there any further comments or questions from the members of the committee? Thank you. Blank on here. If there are no further questions, the committee hereby closes this portion of the meeting. Notice of the decision will be mailed out within 10 days from the date of the committee's decision. The appeal period is 20 days after the date the decision is mailed. After that date, if there's no appeals filed, then the application becomes final and the property owner will be sent a notice. Thank you, everybody, for attending. The meeting is adjourned. I'll ask the committee if they would like to have any discussion or can make a decision. Carolyn?
And it's just one comment, just concern about the MDS. We're asking what 46% change on for any additional buildings. And again, just concerned, we're, mandated to from the Ontario is making sure that, we have a strong rural community. So I understand on the housing side, these surplus houses also bring property tax and they will continue even if the house is there. But also just concerning is, are we setting precedents of, severancing and then limiting our areas of for additional agriculture business in our community. And we have other communities just south of us that it's very difficult because there's so many severances where to build building barns and additional things. It's just my thoughts. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Carolyn. Is there any other discussion?
Just to add to that.
Go ahead.
Just to add to that, there's so many severed lots right there in that area. So it's not going to change a whole lot in my opinion. So just a comment.
Go ahead, Rob.
Just I agree with what you're trying to do. Don't get me wrong there. And the conditions that you have attached, save and except for that entrance issue, I would like to take that one part out. Can there be, you're going to sell the property, taking it. That's the idea of the severance. that they put also put a condition on the sale of the property to notify the owners that are gonna buy it, or the new owners that are gonna buy it. Is that me? Sorry. That the MDS, about the MDS warnings, like can that be attached to the sale? Like when you're putting in a real estate, it's gonna set up something and just add, look at folks that you're buying, these are the conditions.
Wait, go ahead.
To the chair, this was actually considered by planning staff to have one of the conditions to have at least, not exactly what you're saying, but to have something on title as an instrument or something so that someone knows that they buy the property, that, you know, it doesn't actually meet MDS and you have all those issues. But warning, we didn't actually put it as a condition because warning clauses are very difficult to enforce. So it would just make everything more messier. So we didn't actually include that as a condition.
Thank you, Johan. Has anybody else got any questions or comments? Go ahead, Dave.
Would that not all have to be done, the conditions prior to selling it though, or no?
Sorry, I think the question was, all these conditions have to be dealt with prior to selling. If that's the case, yes, because it's after all the conditions are dealt with, then the township will give the final stamp, and then that's when it gets actually registered with the LRO.
Go ahead, Colin.
Just out of curiosity, when a house is sold in Watford to a non-local person, do we warn them that the Watford dump might smell in Watford?
Is there any other comments or questions, or has the committee made a decision, or would you like to sit on this for a bit?
I'd like to propose that we accept the severance on the conditions. The conditions accept. I think it's a great idea. I go buy the house. It's a nice looking house. It looks good. As long as the people that are the MDS issue is there, as long as they are aware of, the purchaser is aware of that. I have no other issues.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I'd like to second that, just on the basis of there is some houses there already. If it was out in the middle by itself, I could see, but with those other residents already there, I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? I have a couple comments. I agree with John a little bit that there's other severances there. So how does this affect one more than the other? I'm mixed because I agree with Carolyn that we're maybe setting a precedence. I honestly don't, a precedence can be challenged in the courts and in the appeals. But I don't look at a precedence coming into effect with this committee because we look at each individual application separately. Council approved the zoning. They considered it very strongly. Other applications of zoning may be accepted or denied, but that depends on each individual situation also. So at that time, with this comments, I will close my comments and I will ask the committee for a decision and a final vote. All in favor?
In favor.
All opposed? Thank you very much. The motion is passed. I thank the committee and everybody for attending, and have a good day.